How can I be on twice?
Hi.
Are you on your phone?
She's
Who's coming in under
changed
the
the
name?
name. That's what happened was she was looking for the link to come on. So somehow or another, she's got my name. Can you change it, hon, on the screen? Oh, yeah.
Oh. She's, oh, there you go.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody.
Zonia, is that your name? You're on mute and you're talking.
Mute.
Okay, I'd just like to welcome everybody and say that this is the second conversation for installment 20 because it was a very big one, 13 chapters, and we did not put an installment out last week. So this is the second conversation. I know we did share a little bit last week, but mostly we're talking about the messages because there's a lot of very exciting messages come in. So we can surely do that. But today I'd like to delve in a little more deeply into the content of this particular installment because it's certainly very rich for me. And I'm hoping to hear a little more from all of you about how it's moved through you, because that's really what's important is the actual changes and transformation in your own life every day as you read, and listen to these messages. So welcome everyone. Rick can't be here today because of his work schedule. And here we are. Tam, hi, I didn't see you there. Zonia, nice to see you. You're still on mute, but are your closed captions working for you, Zonia?
Yeah.
Can't hear you. Okay, Irene, you're there, I see.
Yeah,
Nice to see
okay.
you. So the closed
Yeah.
captions are working for you, Zonia?
Yeah, happy to see you. Yeah,
Good. Excellent.
yeah. That's okay. Yeah, I'm
Good,
ready.
good.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So who would like to jump in? This is, we got a message today as well, I saw this morning. But who would like to share anything? We can talk about the messages a little bit, then we can get into the journey chapters.
Hi, it's Paula. I was very thrilled to see the message from Mother Mary today. It really, I responded to it too, because where she said, like stop and smell the flowers, and it's so true. We get caught up in the everyday rushing. And I know I do. Then I just stop and reading that message, it was like, okay. And I took some deep breaths and I just stopped and I reflected, even for that couple of minutes, just reflected on what is good in life and how thankful I am. So I really enjoyed that message.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. And it's particularly hard when well, for me, I'll speak for myself. It's been particularly hard the last 8 months because when I feel I have this work I have to do and it's an ongoing thing. And I think that's a particular trap that I certainly have fallen into when it's felt to be spiritual work, like you gotta keep going, and it's not the case. So I've been pretty good over the last few months learning how not to do that. Like this afternoon, I had so much to do in preparing the next installment, but I set the timer and I stopped at 2:30 and I had an hour reading to my grandchildren with a lot of laughter and poking fun and so on Zoom. And then I went right back. Of course, they were carrying on wanting to chat. And I said, nope, grandma's got to go. So, taking the breaks. And of course, the mornings, I always stop the mornings. So yeah, it's a beautiful reminder to smell the roses. And we can do that for a few seconds at any time at all. Right now. Let's all take a deep breath together. Maybe another one or two would be wonderful together. Just joining with each other, like clear pools flowing into each other. And it's not only us here, but all the beautiful souls who will be listening to this video, watching this video later on, who knows when, because we have no idea who's being drawn to this. One more deep breath. Just gather into this moment together. And now we're all here, fully here. I feel more fully here. Thank you, Paula, for that reminder.
Thank you, Christina. That was so beautiful because I needed to stop and breathe because I'm thinking there's been so much happening on all fronts for me in these last few weeks that I'm thinking, where do I even start? And to be able to stop and breathe, I don't even know if my thoughts are gathered enough that I could share. Everything's been happening, but I'm going to try. Jesus, Mary, Cadre of Souls, and you're all here with me. So I want to begin just by sharing how quickly, and I've talked about this lightning speed, everything seems to be accelerating. And it's in the sharing with others. I've had so many beautiful encounters where the blessing and the joining and the exchange has been felt. I have one friend, her name is Judy, and she contacted me last week and she said, Lorraine, she said, I saw you on YouTube today. And I said, what? You saw me on YouTube today? I said, you couldn't have. I've made no recordings for YouTube. She said, yeah, well, it was that thing. Oh, I said, I shared our last installment of Journey on Facebook. You must have got that. We were friends. She said, yeah, that's what it was. She said, I opened it up and I didn't know what it was about. So I just went to join the conversation. So I saw you speaking. I said, oh, that's wonderful. So I, of course, was led, like drawn to share with her. So I did share what has been going on with Journey, my experience with Journey. And she said, wow, she said, can you read? I don't know where I'll find that message again. Can you please forward me all that stuff? So I did. And just to make I have so many stories, but I'm just going to share the message. It's brief, but I think it says it all. And then I'll move on to something else. So thanks for the message, the forward message. I have spent the last couple of hours reading the chapters of the journey. I have reached chapter 100. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with the group and the link to the chapters. I really needed to hear, she's put it in quotes, some of the things I have just read. The point about not blaming our brothers and sisters is something I have been wrestling with for some time. Finding sweetness in the meanest and the most bitter people and blessing them is another statement that struck home. And I wonder if I will be asked to relocate. Anyway, I didn't realize how much I needed to hear what Jesus had to say. Thanks again. Looking forward to our next chat. So she's so fully immersed almost, but we will chat probably tomorrow or Friday when it's convenient for us. So that's just one example of, I just hit share. We've been asked to share, and it may get to people that will define me, and that's okay because it doesn't matter, right? So I hit the share, and that's just one result of that. But also the messages themselves, I have been really focusing on them because I've been doing a lot of processing, and I have had these pebbles come up. In fact, I kind of had a little panic attack on Sunday. I've shared it. I don't know if everybody saw that message, but I had to reach out to Rick because the message about rocket ships, I was so elated. Here we're going to blast off on a rocket ship. And the next day, but it's all coming to an end. And I went from elevation to depletion. In fact, I invented a new word, Christina, depilation. And it was like the air was let out of the balloon. And it was a total emptying, but I wasn't comfortable with it. In my message to Rick, I said, as I write you, there seems to be some fear coming up, though. I don't know what I'm afraid of. And immediately, the joining with Rick and just sharing it, I went into maybe a neutral state of being. I was just neutralized. I wasn't elevated. I wasn't feeling depleted. I wasn't understanding why, but I was emptied and it was okay. And then the next morning, I got a reading that said, Lorraine, you need, we're so fragmented inside, those pebbles come up. And for me, coming to wholeness is healing. So these fragments within me, the pebbles, it was, yes, fear, you are still attached. There's a string still attached to the brain. You are concerned because the group may end and you're aware of that. But remember, I told you that you cannot rely on anybody for a teacher anymore, not even me. You need to go inside. That's where your affirmation will come from. That's where your knowledge is. And so that's, Christina, when I started feeling the union within, the union coming within. So the fragmentation and to become whole is that self in union with becoming the elevated self form. But the union happening inside is so beautiful. And it's been, for me, journey into the unknown has been a journey to the soul. ACIM was a journey into the mind. ACOL was a journey into the heart. And this has been a journey into the soul. And all along, I've been thinking we're creating as a group the pathway of unconditional love out there. But it has to be laid foundation in our own being first. That's what I'm finding. And we're all such unique expressions. So nobody can do this journey for me. We can do it together as the collective, but we're also unique, as I said, that even our journeys inside are going to be unique. Nobody can fix me. Nobody can do it for me, just like I can't fix anybody else or do it for them. But, so it's the paradoxical thing, because there's that part of that uniqueness, but there's also the sameness. There is the path of unconditional love that we're all seeking, and the messages
that's the way, part of that, that's what you're describing, it's union. And the phrase that I've written many times on my blogs in the last year is, we are doing this alone together.
Absolutely.
Because
It's just
as within,
all
so
coming.
without. And being here with everyone is equally important, because it is as within, so without, and as within, so without.
And it's both and that's if we get into our readings, the message in that huge installment is the soul, right? The soul place, and our character, the character and the soul. And I think last week I did share, well, wait, we show up together in this, and it is the oneness of that coming together as well. So it's so powerful what is happening. I'll end with this because I can't take up the time. It reminds me of being on a retreat with a young girl, and she'd just come in for the last day of it. I think it was the Happy Dream retreat with David Hoffmeister in Las Vegas, in Santa Monica in 2017. And she said, no, I haven't read the Course in Miracles. She said, but my father has. And she said, she said, it's so powerful. I sleep with it under my pillow. And I want to extrapolate. That is what's happening with Journey. And it's just so powerful. I think in the past we've seen, our proximity to another, just to be in the same room. So to become, to become that powerful being, but also to recognize it's the collective, the shared consciousness. In truth, we are that shared consciousness. And it is so powerful, that light. Like, I don't know, the light's going to start coming out of these eyeballs in the form of tears soon. So I think I've covered a lot of the stuff that I've been going through. It is Advent, and it's Lorraine, stay still. Sometimes when we're in the process, it's not a time to we can't reflect and contemplate. We're in it. And with the beginning of Advent, those of us that come out of a Catholic background, and even other Christians, I think the Anglican faith too, Christina, Advent is just as significant as Christmas. So it's the stillness and the expectation of waiting for the birthing. And we're going through the growing pains on the character, and we're going through the labor pains together because we're birthing something new. And so in this time, it's been, Lorraine, stay still. No, just stay still. Sit still, breathe. Lorraine, stop. Smell those flowers. And I look forward to this time where I think one of the questions in one of the messages was, okay, review this. Where did it stop you? Where were you afraid? Where were you hesitant? I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it was one of our messages recently, and go back and look. And I have not even looked at the recording. So I kind of look forward to being in a pregnant pause. That's what we call Advent, waiting for and to go back and take a look maybe and do some reflection and contemplation. But also I'm looking forward to where we're going to go, and who knows, and how will we move forward as a group, or how will we not move forward? It's all so amazing. It's all so beautiful. Thank you for
Lorraine.
listening.
And I'm just going to add one very quick thing and then open it to anybody who'd like to share. The one quick thing I want to add is yes to everything you said, mind, heart, soul. And I just want to remind us all that there is a body, which is the expression of the soul. And that's one of the things that's a little harder for some people, perhaps more from a Course in Miracles alone background. And I know it was hard for me, but the transformation is happening in every particle of our being, which is mind, heart, body, and soul. And that's the transformation that's also happening, to be able to be here and express love in form, which is what A Course of Love ends with.
Yes.
Endlessly, effortlessly expressing love in
Yes.
form. That is why we are still walking the planet, or else we wouldn't be here if we were done with our assignment. So thank you for that very much. And I'll open it up to anybody else to share.
I could add what came to me when she was speaking, that sometimes I expect way too much of myself, and then I get down. And what occurred to me recently was I am healed as I give healing, and that is all. And how I do that is when everybody actually now comes into I think of them, whether it's somebody I agree with or somebody who I totally disagree with and I'm really upset by, I send them a blessing. That's my greeting to everybody. Most of them, of course, are not in my presence, but I always just send them a blessing. And just saying those words always just changes my whole feeling. I get less upset and tense, and I stop saying to myself I should be doing more, because to me that's all I can do. I can simply send everybody a blessing. When I go to bed at night, I lay in bed and all the people that come to mind, I send a blessing to. And all day long, I turn on the news and get all distressed. And I say, no, they're there for me to send a blessing to. That's it.
Thank you. That's lovely. And it's not all sweetness and light, I might add, because what comes up are the places where there is still resistance. Lorraine called it pebbles, specks, and that includes emotional distress. It includes body distress. When this kind of powerful energy moves through us and we're willing, which we are, embracing all of that is hard sometimes. And that's why, besides these calls, I hope you have people who you can be with, who nurture you. Who else would like to speak?
I'd like to just tail on that. I definitely find that through blessing other people and what you're saying, it brings up a lot inside of me that I become aware of or haven't been aware of, that allows me to release little smaller things that I haven't been able to notice, that I'm trying to just let go of. But through blessing and loving everyone, it almost is a reflection back at me in some places that I still am just allowing to go through the process of letting them transform, I guess I would say, or become in a positive direction. So yeah, I definitely see that, and I really love this last section. So
Okay. So your willingness is everything, isn't it?
yes.
Thank you.
I would like to comment on chapter 170. You wrote a question, Christina, which says, are you willing to have your life review on Earth inform the ultimate goal? I found it very interesting that the idea of having this life review while it's still embodied, because the idea we have about life review is in the afterlife. Yes, we hear these stories of survivors of near-death experiences who have had a life review, and they are very interesting because they clearly serve a purpose of releasing all that was energies trapped there in the past. When you bring the past to the present, you are no longer living from memory. You are actually experiencing the past in the present, making the past present. Means you are not just there in your mind or memory. And that's the difference between a life review and simply remembering what happened in the past. It's not about remembering, it's truly reliving it, but with a different identity. And I found that when I do this, I'm able to look at certain incidents or relationships, things that happen, and relate with them from a different self, which obviously sees that event from a very different perspective than the self that experienced it in the past. And then there is a sort of an alchemy, because that event, although the event is the same and you cannot literally change the past, but you can have a very different experience with the past. So transformative that the past is then released. If there was any energy or anything tied back then, unforgiveness, grievances, feelings of being a victim, this all dissolves because you no longer see yourself being victimized. You no longer see yourself, your happiness depending on someone doing or not doing something to you. It all goes. So you are truly free for a new beginning. Because now whatever was occupying space inside my psyche, like mind and heart, has now gone. So there is empty space for the new to emerge. So I like that a lot, this idea of the life review on chapter 170. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that. You reminded me of a little phrase. I'm not going to remember the whole thing, but from A Course of Love that talks about exactly what you described. And it says that you seal the place where bitterness, seal the place in the heart where bitterness enters. It's done, you know. That feels like a wonderful place to be. Yeah, beautiful. And all that's left is gratitude to everyone and everything. Thank you.
Christina, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Somewhere you had questions after like each of the segments or something. Where are the questions?
It's on the right at the top of each chapter, right above the photograph.
Right
And I've just dropped this installment's questions into the chat. And the other place on the website where it is, I think, is if you click on the main tab that says download index. For each installment, there's a place where you can download the installment video, audio. You can download the installment text, and the questions are listed there too. But on every chapter, look at any page on the website where there's a chapter number, right there above the photograph is the question, or above the chapter title.
Actually, when I download the chapters at the end, the question is not on the printed.
No, it's not on there. It's on the page where you do the click on the button to download.
Okay.
All
Well,
of
I
it.
misunderstood you then.
Yeah, and Jody, did you find it on a chapter? Just go to any chapter page. I can't hear you. Sorry. Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. Like I go to a chapter page,
Okay.
like chapter 1,
Uh-huh.
but I don't see the questions anywhere.
It's
Above
not,
the photograph.
yeah, it's the page with the photograph, but not the actual downloads.
Do you see the photograph
Yeah, I see the photographs.
and
but-
the letters chapter 1 at the top?
Mhm.
And above that, there's nothing? Interesting.
Within the badges of each of the installments, the chapters are listed.
Is it because I'm looking on my phone instead of a computer?
I don't know. That's interesting. I'm just checking it out myself. No, I'm on my phone and I can see the question right above. So in this last installment, that's chapter 158, and there's the
Oh, it's
question
just
right
one
above.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Okay.
each chapter, there's a question for each chapter so this is not what Rick received. I mean, it's my reading of the whole chapter
Right.
that allowed
Okay.
it to synthesize into a single
I thought it was
question,
questions. Okay, great. I got it.
just the one, yeah. And then the whole installment is in the chat right now.
Right. The installment is not in the chat.
The questions.
Does everybody else have the questions in the chat?
I'm not seeing. them.
No, they're not in there yet.
Put it on the phone.
Well, that's interesting. I can see them. Okay, let me put them in again. Technology. You love it and you hate it. Okay, give me 1 sec here.
While you're doing that, I had to laugh a little bit. Zonia uses the closed captioning for those that might not know that. And when Rodrigo was speaking, I was reading the closed captions,
Mhm.
and it was pretty funny, actually, the way they translated it. So Zonia, sometimes it's not going to make so much sense to you what is being in the closed captions.
Okay, I'm going to drop the questions into the chat to everyone and hit return in 1 second. And tell me if anybody gets this.
There it is.
Yeah.
They are.
There they are.
Good. All right, who else would like to share?
It's quite, it makes me laugh a bit that one of the questions, it says, you know, do you desire a relationship with the unseen world? I mean, that's what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I realized when I welcomed everybody and said, breathe together and us here and all the people who view it later, I did not include, and all our unseen friends who are all around us and within us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this, there's a sense that this veil is almost very thin,
Mhm.
very thin, and I love the questions because you can take these questions and it can really, you could be in a very stuck place, but the questions here, there's a something about them that they're not, I don't find them very cerebral, whatever you call the word, but they are very feeling, soulful questions, I mean, I love some of the, just for example, I mean, one of the questions I really like was, will you discard all your heavy baggage and travel lightly? It kind of hits you immediately without going into any kind of verbs or any speaking. You can actually contact the energies quite nicely here. There's a lightness in there as well, which I really, really respond to. I think originally with the Course in Miracles, which I approached, and I found it very hard initially, and I had to go to other people to interpret it for me, people that I thought were in the know. And but with this, this is it's beautiful, really, how it's come through. It's just, it's good company. Good company.
Thank you. That's a nice way to say it. How can you speak about the experiences you've been having lately, the last week or two?
Well, my experiences, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of my preoccupations, I would say, if they were experiences, which they are experiences, more would be around, I'm revisiting forgiveness. I'm finding, there's just various wordings and various things that are coming up, and forgiveness is something that I'm looking at with a new kind of level of consciousness, and that's proving. I mean, if I looked at forgiveness a year ago, it's 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there's a different different consciousness I sense with myself with looking at forgiveness and deeper forgiveness lessons with people around me. But in terms of just a quick thing, I mean, I had a couple of old injuries that came up that were 30 years ago, and body injuries, to do with slip disc and something else. And they 30 years ago, I mean, the injuries that they came up, one stopped me doing martial arts, which I loved. So I ended up smoking pot for years after that, because that was an outlet, and I'd given up on alternative medicine people. They weren't working, and the other one affected my relationship, but the same injuries came up this time, and I approached them from an angle of this. I can't do my Sufi dance, you can't do a lot of things, but I've approached them from an angle of, wow, this is interesting. Let's see, I'm going to come out of it. What is this teaching? When I realized, the realization came to me was that actually my body's changing in a new way. There's an intelligence coming through that's actually, and it's forced me to become much more gentle. There's a new thing called egoscopy therapy that I'm looking at, self-study, that's getting me to be very gentle with the body. I mean, really gentle, like I've never been, and patient. So, some of the exercises are, I have to sit down and lie on the floor, but they're intelligent, and what they're teaching me is to really, if I could say this, if we talk about Mother Mother, smelling the roses, I'm actually starting to appreciate my body in a very, very new way. And it's very gently, this loving, and there's an appreciation going on, not from an intellectual or upstairs, it's more from a feeling basis. I'm actually enjoying it. And even though there's pain there, I don't take any painkillers, or because I found another breathing process that helps with that. So I think for me, the experience really, going back to Journey, is that with Journey is, for me, is that I was drawn to this group because I feel that there's another relationship going on. It's not so much me and my voice, and everyone has some kind of a relationship with this, but there's an overall relationship that's intriguing me bit by bit and pulling me in. So I come every week, and it's that there's a union with the journey that's going on that I like. It's something that I find quite comforting as I come along here. I also, there's things that challenge me as well. But really, it's this, the invisible, is becoming. It's really becoming quite visible. The invisible. It's not so invisible, and I'm finding myself really opening to things that I wouldn't have opened to years ago. I mean, beings and invisible, all these type of things that I've heard before. And so, I'm just finding extraordinary stuff, with all of this. But I think also that a lot of the ordinary, for me, that's a lot of the ordinary things are beautiful. Just going for a walk in nature and contacting in a new way, being able to I go for a walk in nature, and I'm actually having not even a conversation, but I get answers just quietly. I put a question out there and it comes in the nature. So it's beautiful, really. And being here with this group keeps coming up with surprises all the time. The Mother Mary message today about smelling the roses, I could see that with the body, just having to slow down, just really slow down and gently go through. It might take me 6 months of rehabilitation to fix this slip disc and the other thing, but actually, and giving up the things like the Sufi dancing, all these things which I love, is proving, smelling the roses can mean many things, really.
That's beautiful, Kevin. That's really beautiful. Your relationship with your body, its appreciation of your body, the love affair, the union of you, your mind, heart, and body is what you're talking about, guided by the soul. It's just so beautiful the way you talked about it. Thank you.
John, I've been in reading the messages coming through Rick. Jesus asked me what parts of a journey do I take from, and I think for me the most beautiful part is the idea of, Lorraine said it before, blessing everybody, to say God bless at the end of when I'm texting somebody, I say God bless. And when I'm meeting somebody on the street, I say bless, bless, or bless you, or God bless you, silently. And I think that that makes me feel good when I do that. That there's that giving and receiving are one and the same in truth. And also I've been since 2016. I've been going to a Catholic church here in San Francisco, a local Catholic church here in the Castro, and the pandemic really hit and the lockdown. We're almost in a lockdown situation here, and I've been looking forward to every Sunday when I would go to mass, and not just the mass, but the communion of people. The two biggest parts of the mass for me in impact are the Our Father. When we actually, before the pandemic, we actually held hands across the aisles and said the Our Father. The other part is the receiving the host, receiving communion, because it was like a procession. It was like a procession, but it was seeing everybody else processing to receiving the host and the wine. And then for a while we haven't been able to receive the wine because of the pandemic. But I'm gonna miss that because this coming Sunday it's only gonna be available on Facebook Live, and but it is that communion of people. There is that sharing that is so important. What Jesus has been saying all along, that sharing, that giving a blessing to each other, to be a part of each other's lives, even if we only see each other once a week at mass. And I really gonna miss that part. Uh, but uh, so that brings me together in a community, and I really so that's one of the things where I'm taking when Lorraine said the A Course in Miracles was mind, A Course of Love was heart, and A Course and Into the Unknown is the soul. And I really agree with that. That's where we're discovering each other's souls, and I'm discovering my soul in the process. And I don't know where this is going to lead, but I'm so excited about this time. And I love Jesus' comment, hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because I think this is the exciting time right now, is just where do we go from here? And what's our function in all this process? What do we do? And because it starts with me. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something actually from 145. When John said, hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. It could be a bumpy ride. It could be a joyous ride too. It depends on whether you like a roller coaster or not. And it says, how could anything but wonderful, exciting things happen to an aspect of God? And he asks us to ponder this issue. And this thought has helped me in the past a lot, because when I remember the truth of who I am, really, what can really harm me? I'm really not this body. I'm more than this body. And so it was nice to see that again. And we really should ask, how good can it get? I mean, things don't have to get, things are already starting to look up a bit, and we should really be asking ourselves, how good can it get? And see the good that could come out of it, and go with that. And then I have one other, just a question. Rick probably knows this answer. Maybe you do, Christina. In 162, who is Deshaun? He mentions Deshaun as a pure soul.
It's
I don't
just,
know who
it's just a name. To me, it was just a character that's used like Aunt Tilly.
Mm.
Oh, all right.
I don't think, I could be wrong, Rick could correct me, but I think Aunt Tilly is just an example person to make it real, and Deshaun is another example person. And I think
Yeah.
somewhere else there's Uncle something, I can't remember the name, but there's Uncle something is used as well.
Well, Aunt Tilly's already come up in a conversation with John and myself. In another
Okay.
group, he brought up Aunt Tilly. And what's really funny is I knew exactly, you know, what good old Aunt Tilly is. A great name.
Mhm. So yes to everything you said, Judy, and you said about looking, things are beginning to look up and how good can it get? Absolutely, that's knowing that, anticipating good things, and practicing that now, in this moment, because it is our evaluation and judgment that creates the resistance. And in fact, each moment is perfect. No matter what is happening. So that's the hard part. The devil is in the details in that way, really. And that's what I notice each day when I find myself pushing away something.
I just want to add to that, Judy and Christina. This Judy friend of mine, when I was sharing with her last week, she said, "Oh my gosh, Lorraine," she said, "it must be amazing to have found your purpose. And you are serving willingly God's purpose. Your purpose is his and yours." And I said, wow. I said, Judy, that's a wonderful articulation, because I said, that's exactly what we're doing here. So I want to pass that all on to you as something to think about. But I feel I have found my purpose by being here in a whole new way, and in a very certain, it's certainty for me that that's what we're doing. You know, my purpose and God's purpose is one, and we have put ourselves in the service of God, which, and I think Christine, you were speaking to, but the devil is in the details. You know, we're going to slip back and forth. I'm going to go from elevation to emptiness. You know, the irony of the emptiness, though, is, and I think you spoke to it, Rodrigo, is I had to get empty because I had to also be filled newly with something else, you know, letting go of these fragments, right? But anyway, I throw that out there because as we go forward with however we're called to do it, that's what we're doing. We're serving God and serving God's purpose and stepping up to the plate as best we can.
Which is to be who we truly are.
Absolutely,
And
Christine.
express love in our own unique way, which no one else can do.
No.
And it changes literally moment to moment. So holding it very lightly, it has nothing to do with coming to a Zoom meeting every week. It has everything to do with the within you in the moment. And who knows, many of you may begin Zoom conversations. And that would be wonderful. Many of you may relocate, like your friend Judy asked you. You just don't know what's going to happen. You literally don't know. Endings and beginnings all rolled into one. So thank you. Yeah.
I add something to what I said before.
Go ahead, Irene.
When I said I am healed as I give healing, actually is a line from A Course in Miracles. There's more to it than that. And I believe that everything, I now believe, I wish I didn't believe it actually, but I now believe that everything that I think of another person is, I get to keep. Now, you know, Jesus has said, or I finally heard it anyway, that the only things that actually I do get to keep and anybody else gets to keep is the love. Anything that is other than love is not something that we actually get to keep. So the only thing that we get to keep is love. And so that is then, if I get to keep what I give, then that is what I want to give. So when I say that all the peoples who cross my mind, or I could say cross my path, but it's really in my mind, I send a blessing to, because that's what I want to keep. And I need a lot of blessings. And so the way that I feel blessed is to bless everybody that I can think of. And I think that's actually what we all say in these meetings on Wednesday. That's what we keep saying over and over again in different ways that, you know, speak to different of us. And on some days, some things speak to me, and on other days, another way of phrasing it might speak to me. But I think that's why it's so exciting is the wrong word. I think it's calming and lovely about what we say on these Wednesday talks is why, and uplifting to each other, that whatever we're speaking, we not only are saying to each other, but we're saying to ourselves. That's it. Thank you.
And as Irene, as you said, you're blessing everyone, you're blessing yourself every single time.
Mhm.
Well, I'll take a few minutes to share now, and you'll be hearing the angels chiming in the background. That's the chimes, because it's very windy out here today and it's beautiful. It's mild. If it gets too noisy, raise your hand and I'll move inside. As I'm watching what's unfolding for me these days, I'm going through the course of love for I don't know how many times since 2015. It's many times. And what I'm noticing is that I'm spending more time, more deeply accepting what we're covering in the material that we are. And my sense of it is that this is a part of this entire aspect that has me now speaking to all of you CEOs in training. Remember, we've all come across that in the reading, correct? It's as if to say, I'm looking at the relationship between A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love and the journey into the unknown. Journey into the unknown is more, to me, is more into fruition. What has unfolded from the last 30 years with A Course in Miracles and the last 5 years or 6 years with A Course of Love. It's in effect coming up with, or what we're hearing in the sense is marching orders or instructions or guidelines of how to bring this into practice, how to bring what we've gotten from the rest of the material into our relationships with one another, our relationships with all. And I accept we're on that journey to becoming the CEOs of whatever is our role to be a CEO of, as he alluded to a while ago. It's to make the distinction from the other two are working, I felt were working for myself of learning within and discovering within and what I've had within and what I can share from that perspective. And now the way that we're hearing about this from Jesus, from Mary, and the cadre of souls, and what we're reading in the chapters, speak more to the practice of this becoming relevant, becoming active, becoming, even more appropriate sooner rather than later. And it's pretty exciting to see all these fitting together in the means that they are. So in the last week, as I've continued to deepen awareness in these other areas, I continue to see all of this fitting into this package that we're now hearing directly from Jesus. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Rick, and Mary, and Helen, and Bill, and the cadre. So are we now seeing this design unfolding? Is it becoming more relevant or more present for us to be seeing and to be realizing what we have signed up to, what we have chosen, and what we have pursued? Anybody else get a little nervous twinge when he speaks about us being the leaders, us being the ones that are going to make this happen? I get that every now and then. Anyone? Then there are other times that I just fully accept it. So anyway, that's where I've been this week. Thank you. Thank you, Chimes. I'm complete.
Very pretty sound, Bill. Thank you.
There's a couple of things I've noticed in the last little bit is just noticing how quickly I'm able to give up my ego faster and faster. It seems to be like I can recognize it, let it go, recognize it, let it go, instead of dwelling in it as long as I used to. And I think that that awareness is somehow being heightened. I don't know if that's the right word for it. And also the other thing is, I think, this is a course of action, to take action. And one of the things I've been trying to do is I've been a little bit bolder in my conversations with people. And at first I thought, well, that didn't go well. But then later found out it did go well. But at the time it didn't feel like it. But I just keep thinking, I just have to keep being bolder, being my truth, speaking my truth, being bold, instead of saying what I think people want to hear. And that's been rather scary for me, but also really good for me. I read a quote today, though, that said that tenderness equals truth and truth equals tenderness. And I thought, I just need to figure out how to be bold and tender at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's another one of those fierce compassion. Love and compassion is not necessarily soft and quiet. And you alone know the difference, where it's arising from.
Right.
From your heart's prompt, or is it an ego thing?
Right.
And the person you're speaking to and you yourself will feel the energy of it, and you'll know the difference. So,
well, I found that people whose egos are on fire don't necessarily, it may take them a little bit to process it.
Oh, and they may well attack you as well, which has happened many, many times. But you will find yourself not concerned about another thinking or what they think about you or whatever. But, and it's a very, it's very individual thing.
Yeah.
When to speak, when not to speak, what to say, what not to say. And that's where spirit comes in.
Yeah.
Guiding spirit into every conversation. I love that you're being bolder, fierce, ferocious. We need lions and tigers, There was a chapter very early on. Do you remember the chapter early on where it described the soul as a caged tiger that was rarely, if ever, let out?
Mhm.
A little bit for a little walk if it was lucky. That's what happens in most human incarnations. So it's a tiger when
I
it's.
remember hearing, sorry, Christine, I remember
Go ahead.
hearing someone describe Mother Teresa and Jesus as they weren't domesticated cats, they were alley cats. You know, it was the spirit, it is that really.
Yeah.
It isn't nothing domesticated about it at all.
Yeah. And it's the energy that moves, you know, it will be felt and it will have the highest impact for everyone. We can't tell what that is. We just have to put it out there, Jody, as you're doing, being bold, you know. I love that. Tam, Sonia, anything to share? Paula, you've been pretty quiet too.
Well, I spoke before, so Tam, why don't you speak?
I think
I spoke early on.
if you'd like to, no pressure at all for anyone to speak.
I've just been noticing opportunities to forgive coming up, and I just find it interesting because they're things that I had forgotten about, and it's just a simple process. It's not something that I find upsetting. I just find it curious that these things are popping up. I did have an interesting experience on Thanksgiving Day, in that I suddenly started getting all these security alerts and messages that my credit card had been breached, and was being used on different gaming sites, which isn't something that where I use my credit card. And that is something that I've questioned myself about and thought about, as far as I feel very secure about myself in most areas, but that, you know, that money area is a place where I still feel vulnerable, and as Jesus mentioned in his recent messages, I, you know, feel kind of like a vending machine and getting my buttons pushed. But I found I was able to look at it and bless it, and bless the individuals that were taking part in this, and just kind of moved forward with a sense of curiosity, and you know, I'm in this for a reason. What's going to happen? And so when I talked with the credit card people, it just hit me that, wow, this is Thanksgiving. This is 7:30 in the morning on Thanksgiving Day, and I'm talking to somebody who's at work at a phone bank, you know. And I ended up on 2 different occasions that day talking to these people on the other side of the line, and just realizing that this is a person, and, you know, asking them how they're doing and if they're going to have a chance to celebrate the holiday with their family or whatever. And the tone in their voice shifted immediately, and they became people. And it was just, you know, it was nice.
It was a blessing for all of you, for both of you. How beautiful. That's wonderful. I love that word, curiosity.
Yeah.
That is my
Still
prayer,
have to
to
work
walk
on
in.
that. Still have to work
yes,
on that.
I do too.
Money issue thing.
Well, just the curiosity about whatever's happening. Yeah, yeah. So it's a little after 6. Sonia, would you like to say anything before we wrap up? Sonia?
It's okay. I'm just listening, everyone. Yeah,
I'm glad you're here.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Zonia.
Thank you. Yeah.
May I just,
We didn't do introductions. I'm sorry. Zonia was with us many times earlier on, and then she dropped out for a little while, but she's in Australia, so she's very early morning for her. So thank
I
you for
just
being
want to
here,
say
everyone.
something briefly
Paula.
before we end. I didn't speak
Yeah.
much.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sonia, she's speaking. I'll back away.
Go ahead, Paula.
No, I know it's after 6. The one thing I took away from the majority of this section, and I just loved it because there are times in my journey, you might say, where I felt weak or little or small or, where I doubted. And he kept referring to us as the matured souls. And that really spoke to me somewhere so deep. Like, yes, he knows us. And that's why he's chose us. And I love when he said we're part of the executive team now. So I really, that whole section, I have it so, I print it and I highlight it because I want to have it like to touch and read. And there was one section where he just kept saying about the matured soul. You are a matured soul. And chronologically, I feel very matured, but I guess inwardly, I felt I was still growing. And he acknowledged it. And I felt that really spoke to me. I just wanted to say that. And I say thank you, Jesus, for those words of encouragement. And that was it. Thank you all for listening.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zonia. Thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for being here.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Love you
you.
all.
Bye-bye.
Love you all. Bless
Love
you.
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bless
Bye-bye.
you all.
Yeah.